Welcome to Ask the Pro. I'm Chris Dufay, and this is where I'm here to give you what's needed to create the online business, the money, and importantly, the freedom that you want. The Ask the Pro show has been upgraded, and it's also got a new home, which is turningproacademy.com. Now, if you go to turningproacademy.com, all the podcast episodes, video episodes, and in-depth articles are there waiting for you right now. Plus, if you go to turningproacademy.com/start here, then you can get access to the free coaching guides. So if you want to know how to double or triple your clients in just a few weeks, or if you want to know how to start and grow your online business, be sure to go to turningproacademy.com/start here to get access to it now. Welcome to the Ask the Pro podcast. I am your host and your coach, Chris Dufay, and this is where I'm going to be giving you what's needed so you can create the online business, the money, and more importantly, the freedom and positive impact that you want. Now, this episode is pretty awesome because I'm bringing on Laura Hanley, which is the author of the book called Content That Converts. And this is a very, very, very important topic. And I know so many people are confused either of not knowing what to do, not knowing where to get started, or frustrated from working hard on producing content, putting it out into the big wide world, but hearing crickets and it's just not getting the traction. And this is why I'm bringing Laura on for this episode. We're going to be delving into why you need to be producing content and what types of content, why the importance of touch points with your potential customers, with your market, and how you need to be having multiple touch points with them for them to actually be coming on board as your customers and clients. And if you're not doing this properly, well, then you're just not going to be signing on new clients. And also we're delving into how do you start creating a successful campaign, how you start to organize yourself with content creation so you're avoiding the overwhelm, and what content distribution is, because she also helps me really piece together what I'm doing with myself and with all the Pro Circle members as well. Now, this episode is thankfully brought to you by my nutrition and fitness company, My Body Blends, because it just gives me the total freedom to be able to do these interviews, do these solo sessions, and create this for you. So if you are looking for the real life insights with nutrition, fitness, and what you need to be doing for yourself, and also so you can start to understand how to better help your clients, go and tune into the My Body Blends podcast. That's where you're going to be able to get the weekly episodes where I'm bringing on the best guests. Also, we are looking for a very select few ambassadors. So if you think you are good enough, then head on over to mybodyblends.com. You'll be able to find the ambassador page and you'll be able to apply for us to look over that for you as well. Now, to make sure that you do get the most out of you being here right now, I want you to go to turningproacademy.com/start here. I want you to head on over to Chris Dufay, that's Chris Dufay.com/start here. That's where you're going to be able to take the quick quiz so you can figure out what are the best next steps that you actually need to be taking right now, not a cookie cutter approach like so many people are trying to jam down. So whether you want to be able to start your online business, build your online business, you've already built it but you're looking for traction, or are you looking to build your face-to-face fitness business, or do you want both of those? It depends on where you are right now and what the best steps are that you need to take. So you'll be able to get the actual guides to take you through that over at chrisdufay.com/start here, because that is why I actually created it for you. So let's head on over. Let's press play on Laura's interview, because this is going to be very eye-opening. I really want you to be able to take notes on this, because there's a lot of practical takeaway points that you need to be able to do it. And I really highly recommend that you get her book as well. So let's jump on in. Laura Hanley, thank you so much for coming onto the Ask the Pro podcast. I'm pumped to finally just be talking to you. We've kind of just like been in similar worlds for so long. I think it's just like a really good excuse just to chat.
Yeah, no, I'm psyched that I finally get to chat with you as well. It's been a while coming.
All right. Well, there's a very good reason why you're here. I actually was listening to you being interviewed a little while ago with the book that you've produced that I want to sink our teeth into very, very soon. And I was like, oh my God, okay, this is absolutely perfect. We have to dive into this topic. You are the bee's knees on something right now that so many people just need. And I know because I get constant messages all the time that people are confused about this. But even before we go to content that converts, who is Laura Hanley and why are you so phenomenal?
I am Australian by birth. I live in Portugal now. I have a content marketing agency and we work with specifically B2B clients, but we also do a bit of the B2C and e-commerce space. We do a lot of blog content, ghostwriting, copywriting. So yeah, very wordy, very, very wordy. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
How did you get into this?
So I did a degree in writing and publishing long, long ago, and then worked in a publishing house in Sydney for many years. So this was about the time that the Twilight book phenomenon happened at this publishing house. So had a sort of thrown in the deep end experience. I was doing publicity there, so doing all of the sort of marketing for the books. And yeah, I've been a lifelong bookworm, so it sort of gave me an excuse to read a lot and, meet all of these authors that I just thought were amazing, and gave me some really good perspective on sort of what makes particular books work and how to get them in front of the right people.
All right, fantastic. I'm sure we can absolutely dive into that. And if not, that's probably another conversation that we should get into. But, right, let's get into this. Content that converts. Now, I think the first thing is let's take the people that are sitting on the fence right now going, I'm not too sure about this. Why do you believe, Laura, that we should be producing content?
So there are a lot of people who are on the fence about this because content, I think, has a bit of a reputation for being a soft marketing channel. It's, you can do a lot of it and never really see any money come back from it. Whereas if you're doing, say, SEO or PPC or, Amazon ads or anything like that, you're going to expect a very tangible return on your investment. So you're going to spend the money and then you get the money back. And so it's very clear cut. Whereas content, you can kind of do it. You don't necessarily have to spend any money to make it, but then you also might not make any money back from it. So it's this very kind of intangible thing. And I think that's been a real problem for content. So the focus of the way I approach it is that content always has to be connected to the money. So there's really no point producing it if you're not making sales offers, if you're not, collecting email subscribers. There's got to always be a clear goal in mind. So yeah, I think content can be extremely powerful in positioning you in your market. There's a real opportunity to leverage your expertise and your unique perspective on your particular industry's problems. But a lot of people are sort of going very surface level. There's a lot of very kind of fluffy content being produced, whereas I think it's better to produce a lower volume of content at a much higher quality, because then it is much easier to connect it to your sales, connect it to your subscription funnels, and it endears you to your customers because you're actually producing stuff that's really useful, rather than just filling up their already busy lives with just extra rubbish.
Yeah, totally. I am such a huge believer of this, especially in the health and fitness world, where there's people where you can produce more content that you can poke a stick at, and it is just like it's pissing in the wind. It's messy and it doesn't work at the end of the day. And like I remember I spoke at an event in Sydney earlier this year, and I only had one slide on this, and to tell you the truth, this is the whole thing that we're talking about. And I had phenomenal content. That was the slide that said, and I was like, if you're going to produce something, it's got to be great. It's got to be value, because I feel like so many people, they'll shoot a video, they might post it on YouTube, or then they're going to do a blog post, and then they're jumping from more different means. So if someone's like, okay, I know I've got to produce content, and now I know I've got to produce good content, how do I actually go into the creation of it and not feel like totally overwhelmed?
Yeah, so this is a big problem that a lot of people face, particularly if they don't have a creative background. And a lot of people who come into business are not from those kind of creative industries. So it can be really daunting to sit down and get everything that's in your head and all of your knowledge and the, you know, the experience that you've accumulated over the whole course of your career and communicate to someone, you know, all of that information without, you know, spending as long teaching them everything. So one process that I really am a fan of is talking out the content. So you can just talk. I mean, I'm sure that you could do this, just talk for hours about everything you know about health and fitness. But the best way to do it is to sort of have the overarching topic that you want to talk about, as well as a few key points within that, and then just talk through it all and record yourself. Ideally, you would do it talking to another person so that they can ask you questions to sort of clarify and sort of act as a bit of an advocate for the reader. So, okay, if someone's not going to understand what this means, you need to kind of go deeper on that. But talking through it, I think like a lot of entrepreneurs are very verbal and get very good at kind of explaining what they do all the time because you're just constantly having the conversation. So you might as well leverage that sort of natural ability and just record those conversations. Then you can either go back and listen to them and just write them down if you're doing blog posts, or you can have them transcribed and then just go through and tidy them up. Personally, I like to listen to them and then write them as I go because you hear things in the nuance of the conversation and in the intonation and that kind of thing that might trigger another idea and, you know, fills it out a bit more and makes it more rounded. But if you push for time or, you know, you just need to you just have to get this one thing done, just have it transcribed and you can just tidy it up and make sure that it all kind of makes sense. So that's one thing. But I would say even if you're doing podcasting or videos, social media content, wherever your, you know, preferred medium is, always have a plan. So I think starting with the structure is really important. So having this overarching idea, the key points that you want to get into, maybe even a few sub points within those so that if you are distracted or, you know, you have to sort of do it in bits and pieces, then you can kind of come back to it without really losing the flow of what you want to talk about. And yeah, it just makes for a much more thorough piece of content to have a plan before you start.
Very practical, and I totally appreciate this because this is where if you said this to me 2 or 3 years ago, I would have been like, oh my God, you've just saved me 2 or 3 years knowing and looking backwards right now. How do you help someone actually understand, let's start with the platform that they might want to be using. How do you direct someone to say, all right, am I shooting videos, blog posts, audio, or where should I go?
I think most people naturally gravitate to a particular form. So I like writing, you know, that really suits me and I've been doing it for my whole life. So it makes sense to me to keep writing. But somebody else might feel really comfortable on video, particularly if they're very extroverted. So I know that you do a lot of video. Adalsa Ness, who has the Mimic Method, which is another business sort of that's in our circle, he is very extroverted, very big personality, and his video just crushes it. Like every time he makes video, it's just like money falling out of the sky. So that's, you know, it's a really natural fit for him. Other people are really good at just chatting and having conversations and have a really great way of directing the flow of a conversation. So podcasting is probably a natural fit for them. So whatever you feel really most comfortable in is what I always push people towards. It just seems like, why make it harder on yourself to produce the content than it needs to be?
Totally. What about when it comes to the production side and the volume? How many pieces of content should I be producing? Laura gets asked. How do you help that decision get made?
It really depends on the goals of your business. If you have a very sort of fast-paced, highly competitive industry, then probably more content is better. And it sort of depends also on the format. So, for example, in the health and fitness space, you can't be writing like super in-depth blog posts, you know, every day because you just are going to burn out. There's so much to talk about and there's definitely enough material that you could do it every day. But to do all the research, all of the fact checking, you know, making sure that everything is, you know, correct and positioned in a way that people is going to understand it is just a really huge undertaking. So you could do, you know, lots and lots of social media content and do it in bite-sized pieces and then 1 or 2 major posts per week.
Yeah.
Or if you have a very slow moving industry, for example, like a lot of the B2B space, like if you're selling, aviation equipment to corporations overseas, that's going to be a slow process. And so probably you need less content. Like you need very in-depth, long-form content, but you could do far fewer pieces.
Okay.
So yeah, it really depends on how your industry is structured and how quickly people are moving.
Beautiful. I think that's a really good answer. I think especially for the health and fitness space, say with the client comes on board, I'll start at one really good piece of content a week, like really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather produce more quality than quantity, because quantity can always get ramped up. Because if you're producing shit, well, people aren't going to read it, people aren't going to consume it as well. Now, before we kind of get into the conversion side, I feel like there's a couple of little bits we can touch. The way and you can totally rip this apart, Laura, please, I'd love you to. The way I've looked at content is there's production and then there's distribution. So we want to be able to produce content, but also what do we need to do to get eyeballs, ears, whatever we need into it. How do you help with the distribution side of things?
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in a split with so much more for you. Now, I know you're listening and tuning in because you know how important your health is and how this can also catapult your business. This is why I'm very happy to say that this podcast is sponsored by My Body Blends and my favorite, the Superfood Elixir, the powerful greens drink. Now, this is designed specially to boost energy, aids detoxification, enhances the ability to burn fat, supports healthy carbohydrate metabolism, and best of all, is voted best tasting greens drink. Now, myself and the My Body Blends team are looking for ambassadors to join. So you and your clients get the health benefits plus adding in a strong income stream for you and your business. The ambassador program, which is by application only, means you get exclusive access to sell My Body Blends products like Superfood Elixir to your clients, plus giving you the special ambassador pricing and bonuses. So once you become an ambassador, you can join the other top health and fitness players that are adding thousands to their week's income. Now, there is only a limited number of ambassadors we are taking on board, as this is a tribe leading the way together. So to apply and to join, go to mybodyblends.com/ambassador or add the checkout code that is Turning Pro, all one word, when you're going to get your own Superfood Elixir to order. Plus, you're going to get free shipping and a bonus to save yourself over $250 instantly. So just use that coupon code Turning Pro in the checkout and you can save over $250 right now, all on mybodyblends.com.
So I think distribution is all about understanding where your customers spend their time and attention. So if they are reading Medium a lot, then probably you want to, be double posting your content on Medium and sort of adjusting it for a cold audience. If your audience spends a lot of time on Facebook and, especially if you're in, say, like a B2C, probably Facebook, you really can't beat it at this point. It's just got reach like nothing else. Yeah. You can boost your posts, run ads to blog posts, that kind of thing. Even if you don't pay for any distribution, just getting the right people on Facebook to share it or like it or comment can often be enough to drive a huge amount of traffic to it. So I would say like Facebook for most people is going to be the highest point of leverage. But then, there's Twitter and there's SlideShare. You can repurpose your content and put it in multiple different formats so that you can share it on multiple different platforms. So either have it converted to slides and put it on SlideShare, have it made into a video, or just take the slides that you've had made already and narrate them and put it on YouTube, or have an assistant do it. You don't have to be the one to do that, but making the most of the mass of platforms that are out there, and also just kind of understanding the way that distribution works a little bit. So like Google is the most powerful distribution network in the world. and they own YouTube. So they give high preference to video content. So if you're really looking for volume of traffic to a piece of content, I would say ideally you would have some sort of YouTube content attached to it.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're sort of hitting on like the big distributors, and there are content distribution networks that you can pay to be on if that's the right fit for you, but distribution is kind of the most important part. Like the content obviously has to be really great, but if it's not being seen by anybody, it's
useless.
Not nowhere. It's useless. So the other things that you need to sort of be thinking about is email marketing. So obviously sending your content to people who are already interested in hearing from you and have been engaged by your content previously. And then also with SEO. So there's, a whole lot of things that you can do to make sure that your SEO is better and that you're ranking for particular keywords for each post. I would not recommend writing blog posts specifically for SEO purposes, just because it's not a permanent strategy. So, Google's algorithm changes all the time. You definitely should rank for keywords that are relevant to what you're doing, and, choose a keyword that you want to sort of focus on for each article, but it should be a secondary goal to kind of touch on that to what the purpose of the actual piece of content is. So
I totally agree with that, and I found it really funny because a while ago I was getting leads coming in, and then people I was like, how'd you find me? And they're like, oh, like I Googled like the phrase and like you came up like first page Google, and I'm like, I know nothing. Okay, I'll put it out. The world can know this. I know nothing on SEO. The only thing on SEO that I know is that I have a plugin on the back of my WordPress site where I'm like, title, keywords, description, done. That's it. I'll make sure that I've got a general good idea of what the keyword should be, and it works that way. But I think the content's so important. Now, Laurie, you said something, because you're a smart little cookie, and you said something that kind of like grazed by, and I picked up on. You said if you're producing content that's going to go to cold traffic, how can you help someone differentiate how to produce content, whether it's going to warm or to cold people?
Good question. So warm traffic are people who are kind of already familiar with you. They've maybe seen some of your stuff before. They have like a rough idea of who you are. Cold traffic is just people who have never heard of you before. So if you know that a piece of content is going to be in front of cold traffic specifically, then you need to make sure that you're sort of filling in all of the background information. So here's why I'm talking about what we're talking about. Here are some of the results we've got, just making sure that they kind of have a holistic picture of what your business is doing and what they're going to get out of interacting with you. Most content will go to a mix of cold and warm traffic. So I think it's always better to err on the side of telling people something that they already know, for the sake of making sure that everybody in the audience understands it. And, it never hurts to sort of reinforce to people who are already familiar with you that, like, here's what we do, here's what you're going to get, here are what other people have gotten out of this. Just use a little bit of social proof to sort of, maximize the likelihood that they're going to engage with you in the way that you want them to.
I think it's really important, especially because let's say if you're producing a piece of content that you're going to be using, say, paid advertising, you're going to be pushing Facebook ads towards, then it's obviously very important, as you just said, that this piece of content does show why you're an authority figure, why should people be listening to, what are the results coming about from people following what you're saying. And I think that's just really good. Like you said, the cold traffic thing, I was like, you smart cookie, like I want to make sure that we do that. All right, now you've talked upon something that I think is really interesting, and that is the amount of touch points somebody needs to then start actually having an understanding, and then leads them towards a buying decision. Can you explain that for the audience?
Yeah, so this came out of research that Salesforce did a little while ago. And I mean, the idea has kind of been kicking around for a long time, but they codified it recently that most people need 6 to 8 interactions with a business before they will buy anything. So if you're wanting people to convert on an offer, which if you're in business, I hope that's one of your goals, if you want people to be converting, you have to be in front of them a lot. It's not enough to just be like, hey, here's a cool blog post, buy my thing.
Yes.
Like that's not how it works. And you can see this in interactions in lots of other parts of life. And the classic example that everybody goes to is dating. Like, you don't go on one date and ask somebody to marry you. You go on a few dates.
Doesn't work.
Time. I'm sorry. Yeah, you need to kind of warm people up to who you are, what you're doing, and again, what they're going to get from dealing with you. People need a lot of reassurance when they're going to, put their credit card down and be like, yep, take my money. I'm convinced this is going to work. They have to be really well educated about who you are and sort of what your company stands for, and then what you are going to provide to them. So yeah, it's really critical that you're talking to people really regularly, touching on all of the different angles that might help them understand your offer better, being available to talk to them directly. So I think this is one thing that people are really resistant to with content is like, oh, I have to answer questions from people. Like, that's how you make people buy things, is you answer their questions. So,
yep.
Be willing to sort of get in the comments and chat with people or respond to emails or get on social media, that kind of thing. But all of those touch points count.
Yes.
So they all move people closer to buying.
Yes.
So while it can be a little bit of a high touch experience for you, it's going to pay massive dividends if you can kind of commit to it.
And I think that's so important, because for someone to wrap their heads around this right now, it could be gone are the days of, say, throwing a ad up and, say, Google AdWords and then driving them straight to a buying offer. Like, that's just not going to happen. But if we think about this really easily, we could, say, produce a really good piece of content, drive cold traffic to that content. Maybe then there's an offer for them to opt in for, say, a lead magnet. And then maybe once they opt into the lead magnet, maybe you drive them to a Facebook group from there, and maybe you can get them to go into your Instagram. So then there's obviously multiple platforms that we can be bouncing them from, to then ultimately you can drive them to that sales offer that's the best fit for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this good? Am I doing business wrong?
Yeah. I think you've got a handle on it. I mean, you definitely want to make the touch points count. So, making sure that there's always like a clear purpose again to the content, so that they're getting the narrative that you want them to have, that sort of moves them along the process towards buying. But the background on this is that general market sophistication has increased drastically in the last 5 or 10 years. So since the internet has kind of grown up a little bit, people just the general population, I'm not talking about entrepreneurs and people who spend a lot of time online for business purposes. General buyers online are getting more and more sophisticated. There's no longer this like blind kind of acceptance that was, what made the golden age of, Google and SEO so powerful. But people are becoming more and more discerning and are much more skeptical of what people are putting out there. So it's really important along this timeline of touch points that you're being really transparent, that you're really respecting your audience. Like, don't think that they're idiots, because they're not. And they will call you out if you treat them like idiots. And, I think there's a real tendency to kind of just do the bare minimum. And if you want people to kind of be invested in your brand and your company over the long term and not just buy once and be done with you, giving really in-depth like material that respects where they're at, understands their problem, and has been clearly put together to benefit them, that's going to move them along that buy chain much more quickly.
I think that's really good. And like, it just what pops into my head now is, especially with kind of like what Russell Brunson's been saying a lot lately, and he says like building a culture and how you can start to do that. And I think the quality and type of content that you're building really does produce that culture that you want to create, and especially with the kind of the whole tribe scenario of what's going on. Like, you've got to build, like, say, Kevin Kelly's like, 1,000 true fans. How can you get those true super fans around that can then kind of start building your business from there? And I think this is exactly what we're talking about, what you're such a clever cookie around. I tell you what would you like the listener to go and take action on straight from today with?
I think the main thing is to get to know your customer as well as you can. Like you can produce the best content in the world, but if it's for the wrong person, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So this is kind of the underpinning of all successful marketing, is that you need to have a deep, granular understanding of who your customer is, what drives them, and why they're coming to you looking for a solution. So all of your content needs to be built around that. So once you have that really deep understanding, and whether you get that through surveys or creating a Facebook group for customers to join so that you can chat with them, or, you know, talking to past customers and finding out like what was the tipping point that made you buy or come looking for this kind of thing, really go deep on getting to know your audience. And then once you've got that, think about what are the most valuable things that I can share with them. Like, give away the farm when it comes to your content. Like, really share your best stuff. Like, there's no point keeping it, you know, gated and just waiting for people to buy from you to get access to it, because there's no way for them to know on the other side of that gate what they're going to get. So if you're always giving them the best of what you know, then they're going to feel confident coming to you for you know, the topics that they haven't heard you talk about previously. So I think, get to know your customer, be very clear on what is going to be most valuable to them, even if it's what you charge for, and give that kind of content away. And then have a structured plan whenever you're coming to content. Make sure that it's one for your side on the production, that, you know, it's structured and clear in your mind what you're doing this for and how you're going to do it, but then also how it fits in with the rest of your business's plans. So make sure that your content is driving people towards the goals that you've put together for your business, say for the quarter or the year. Make sure that it's all cohesive instead of being disparate parts of the business.
Beautiful. I think that's so important, especially when I've heard people ask a lot, well, like, what do I produce content on? And I'm like, what are you talking about? If you truly know the problems, fears, frustrations, what your customer wants, like, you know, all the things that you can constantly be talking about, that's going to obviously be giving them the value that they're really looking for as well. This has been so brilliant. Oh my God, I'm so happy with everything that we've covered in this chat so far. I cannot believe we're at time up already. Now, I am a huge fan of everything that you're doing right now, Laura. How does the listener find out more about you, what you're doing, and also the book?
So my website is Laura Hanley, LauraHanley.com, or the book is on Amazon and it's just called Content That Converts. So go and check out the website. There's plenty of information about what we're doing over there. And then the book is only 99 cents at the moment on Amazon. So go and scoop that up and it'll cover hopefully all of your questions. But happy to talk to people on Twitter. I'm Laura Hanley, or you can shoot me an email through the website.
Beautiful. So, I'm going to make sure that everyone gets on over. I'm going to link to that into the show notes. And that is, if everyone listening right now, if you don't spend 99 cents and get the book, you're a peanut. So I highly recommend that you do. Please, I highly recommend it. Laura, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you so much for being here, and if you've liked this episode, please share it out and make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss out. Now, to really get the most out of you being here, go to turningproacademy.com/start here. There you can get access to the free coaching guide. So if you want to know how to double or triple your clients in just a few weeks, or if you want to start and grow your online business, be sure to head on over to turningproacademy.com/start here to get free access to it now. And as always, I'm so thankful for you being here, and I'm really looking forward to you joining next week in the new episode.